All right, happy Saturday here. Loaded card across the board on this February the 24th. Welcome in the last call here, powered by WagerTalk.com. Little NHL action, 3 NBA games. We got UFC tonight, and of course, we have over 140 college basketball games as March Madness is almost upon us here, and we're going to talk about all of those sports. In fact, come up with a couple of best bets for you. We'll do it with 3 of the best here at WagerTalk.com, but more importantly, it'll give you the opportunity to get any of those last-minute questions about some bets you are considering today. Drop them in the chat. We're in enough places right now, I believe, those joining us via Instagram, those on YouTube Shorts as well as our YouTube channel here at Wager Talk TV. Go ahead in the chat, drop your questions if you got something you want to know about any of the games coming up here. And we're going to start on the ice here tonight with the one and only Mr. Carmine Bianco ready to roll, although something tells me you might have a busy day on the pitch as well. But what's going on, Carm? What's new and exciting, man?
Yeah, there's just a ton of games. Joe, you talked about the college basketball. There's like about 400 or 500 soccer games today. It's opening weekend of the Major League Soccer in the U.S. and here, of course, in Canada, and a ton going on in Europe. I'm actually watching some of the games this morning before this show. And then NHL, just a huge slate of NHL games today, man. I'm going to be glued to the TV because my wife is recovering from the Pitbull, Ricky Martin, Enrique Iglesias concert last night. So she's just going to want to stay in bed and sleep. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Some women just never recover, Carmine. So there's fingers crossed for you here, my man. Why don't we start where we're someplace actually not that far for me here with the Washington Capitals are going to be in my neck of the woods taking on the Florida Panthers here tonight. Panthers looking good here. I really hope they don't get the number 1 seed, though, Carm, because we know how that ends up year after year with teams. So here's rooting for Boston again. But what do you think we're going to get tonight here with the Capitals taking on the Panthers?
Yeah, it's obviously the regular money line is a huge line in this one, and rightfully so. The Florida is looking like one of the best teams in the league. They're playing absolutely unbelievable. They just had their 11-game road winning streak snapped in Carolina. If you watch, anyone who watched that game, that was playoff hockey at its best. Scoreless until 20 seconds left in the game, and I think it was Sebastian Aho gets the game winner in that one. That one finishes 1-0 for Carolina. Another back at home, where I think they have the 4th best record in the East as far as home records go, and they've been playing a lot better. They're 10-2 their last 12 games. 2-0 against Washington this season, but a lot of people think Washington's a live dog today. I don't think they're a live dog. I know that they went into Tampa the other night, I think on Wednesday or Thursday night, and got the win against Tampa, but that's a Tampa team that's struggling right now. So I prefer to draw a line through that. When I see like sort of outlier performances, I draw lines from. They beat a struggling Tampa team. They beat a struggling New Jersey team. And beat Montreal. That's their 3 wins on this 3-game road trip. But as I mentioned, the Panthers have won both games this season, 4-3 in Washington and 4-2 at home, which happened less than 2 weeks ago on February the 8th. That game was, so that was just about 2 weeks ago. They beat them in Florida 4-2. I'm looking at the regulation number here because you can get Florida to win within 60 minutes at -140. And I'd rather do that than lay -250 or -260 or even lay the puck line here. I think Florida gets the job done. They're the better team here, obviously. And I just can't see Washington completing the Florida double and winning both in Tampa and Florida tonight.
Yeah, no Bobrovsky I'm seeing, right? So backup goalie here for Florida. Does it matter to you, Carm?
No, it doesn't. They've been good with both their goalies this season. The style of play that they're playing right now, this defensive hockey, they're just shutting teams down and they're scoring. You've got Reinhardt who's having a phenomenal season. Of course, contract year. He is.
Yeah.
It's going to cost them big money to re-sign him as well too. This is. I'm telling you, I get your number one seed thing because
Mm.
2 years back it was Florida number one seed President's Trophy, and they get they go busto, and then last year Boston Bruins first round against Florida. President's Trophy winners off a fantastic season. There's something that comes with that Florida with that President's Trophy. I think the last team to win the President's Trophy and then win the Stanley Cup, I think it was the Chicago Blackhawks.
Oh,
I'll have to
Jesus.
confirm that, but that goes back to the last Cup win. That's been a while.
Yeah. Been a hot minute there. We do have a couple of questions in the chat room for you guys. And again, those that might have any questions on the slate, on the ice, or on the pitch, Carmine is your guy here. So drop the questions in. Carmine, Steven writes, any shot on goal props in this Panthers game that you might be looking at here?
I'd probably look at as odd as it sounds, and I like while I like Florida, you look at some of the guys on Washington just during this bit of a streak, and Ovechkin seems to be scoring again. You might want to look at and Andy Lang coming up later. Maybe he can prepare some of this because he's very good at this. The points prop for a guy like Ovechkin, maybe to pick up a point. His shots on goal are normally 4.5. But he's on a bit of a run, scoring goals and getting shots on goal. And then going right back to Florida, I would always look at the guys that, like I mentioned, like Reinhart, guys who are having good seasons that normally fire pucks on goal. I think this is as far as shot counts go. I think it's going to be a little lower than you would normally see in some games, and that's just because Florida plays some very good defense. And if you watch that game against Carolina. That was playoff hockey at its finest. Give me 7 games of Florida and Carolina in the Eastern Conference Final, and I'll be a happy man.
How about the? It's in. I'm seeing the totals getting 6.5 right now, and it's juiced to the over pretty significantly. But you just mentioned it, right? I mean, Florida wins with defense here a lot too. So any worries about maybe, or is there any value really at looking at the under in this one?
I probably, if you think they're going to shut down Washington, and I get it, I get where people are coming from or where the total's coming from, because you look at Washington, they get 5 in Tampa, 6 at home against New Jersey, and 4. So they've scored 15 goals in the last 3 games. But you can go further back than that, and there's not many goals. There's games where they've been held to 2 or less, and against better defensive teams. And Florida is one of those teams. I think if you look at Florida's overall numbers, and I'm just going to bring it up if you give me one hot second here, Florida's numbers to the under this season have been very good. Here we go. Florida's numbers this season to the under. Florida is 35, 20, and 2 to the under. So if you're betting Florida flat unders, you are making money this. You're definitely making money this season. At home, not as at home. It's not as profitable. It's still profitable at 15, 11, and 1 to the under. So something to look at as far as taking plus money on under 6.5. Again, the 2 games this season, 4-2 just a little over 2 weeks ago, an empty netter in that one to seal it. And that 4-3 game in Washington was a game that did go to OT in that one.
Love it. All right, so good. A quick shout out once again to the chat room. I believe YouTube Shorts. David talking about Tom Wilson under shots on goal now is cash 7 or 8 straight. Good to know there. Appreciate it. Also looking at the Washington team total under as well, and I don't hate that, even with with Bobrovsky out in this one. 6 o'clock Eastern time tip on that. Any additional NHL questions, guys, make sure you drop them in any one of the chat rooms, whether it be Instagram, whether it be YouTube Shorts, or, of course, on our YouTube channel there, WagerTalk TV. We certainly appreciate you hanging with us here. Before we get to your soccer best bet coming up, I believe 12:30 Eastern time, we'll talk a little Man City and Bournemouth here. Before we do that, we got a question about Detroit and St. Louis here tonight. It is a loaded card in the NHL there, Carm. Any thoughts on what we're going to do here with Binnington versus Leon here?
This was a straight. I would love to give you an answer, but if I'm not putting my money on it, then I don't want you to put your money on it. It's this game's a straight pass for me. I do like the way Detroit's been playing. They're making that push. Johnny Detroit, season ticket holder, he's loving the way they play. But those early games, those noontime games, I have had no luck with them. So anything that I did give out on this show, you'd probably just want to bet the opposite of it. I kept it off my 6 and 60. It's not part of the 6 and 60. If you head over to my Twitter or X, whatever they call it, at Carmine Bianco WT, I will have the 6 and 60 tweeted out shortly, right after this appearance. But 6 games that I think you could play today and eke out a nice little profit. The last 5 6 and 60s have gone 4 and 2 or 5 and 1 in each of them. So let's see if we can get a 6 and 0 day on that.
Blues coming off of that shutout of the Islanders, right? Binnington as well have won 5 of 6 here. Early start, always an interesting one there in Detroit. Carm, we got a question from Ryan Turk. Wants to know what the hell the ladder pick is. And I'm guessing if you've been watching Puck Time during the week, you have a pretty good idea of what he is talking about. But for those that may or may not hear, what is the ladder pick here today, or do you not have one?
I do have one. It will be going out shortly, but I am going to go with this is pick number 3. The first one was obviously was St. Louis beating the New York Islanders. We came back with the Buffalo Sabres yesterday beating Columbus. And tonight we are coming on the third ladder pick. Of course, the ladder pick is, if you're unfamiliar with you just keep going all in every pick until you bust or we hit 10K, which is probably about 7 straight plays or 8 straight plays. Tonight's pick is going to be the Nashville Predators, minus 140 in regulation. So it is not the full game, which includes OT and a shootout. They've got to win it within 60 minutes, minus 140. That's what the play will be tonight.
All right, there you go. Got a lot of pick, got a little bit of everything here. So NHL action in full effect. Don't forget, Carmine locked and loaded. Visit his page over at WagerTalk.com. But in the meantime, Carm, we got a ton of soccer coming up here. And Man City Bournemouth is where you're going to be focusing on. So talk to us here, man. What do you like in this match?
So this is one that goes literally in about 75 minutes, an hour at 12:30 today. And this is, you'll find these at places like DK under the game parlays, where you can take a team to win with along with the total. And you can find a slightly lower total than what the actual game line total here is here. So in this case, Man City to win and over 2.5 is minus 125. That's the play I prefer in this one because while I know or believe Man City is going to win this game because they are just in great form at the moment. The handicap is so big in this game that you just don't want to lay those numbers. Bournemouth are a team that they're on 28 points, so they're out of that. They're in what I normally call at this time of the year the safety zone, where they're about 8 or 9 points above the relegation zone. The team starts to play a little more open. They're no longer worried about having to collect wins and points, and they play a more open game. And this is one of the reasons why over their last 5 Premier League games, they've scored a goal in each of them. There have been a lot of 1-1 type of games for them. But when good teams come to Bournemouth to play them, they have just faltered. Liverpool's top of the league right now. Liverpool comes away with a 4-0 win. Arsenal, who sit third behind Man City, and those 3 are battling for top spot. Again, go and win 4-0. They struggle against the good teams, and Man City are definitely a very good team. Now, Kevin De Bruyne is traveling with the team, likely will not play. I don't think he's going to play. He's not injured, but he's not 100%. They have an FA Cup game in midweek, and then they have the Manchester Derby next weekend. So knowing Pep Guardiola, if his team, he'll keep him on the bench. If he needs him in the second half, he'll bring him in. But with that said, I don't see him starting. They don't want to risk injuring him. He missed pretty much the whole season due to an injury in game one of the season. But Man City has enough talent. They have enough talent on the bench that they could field a team that could probably play for the title in the Premier League. So Man City to win and over 2.5 goals. I say this gets there, and it could be very well be one of those 2-1 or 3-1 type of games. I don't want to sweat the handicap when I think that the game goes over the 2.5 and Man City wins.
You all right? So you like, yeah, well, that's true. It's an hour, just a little over an hour, guys, for that one kicks off. So plenty of opportunity to be able to get on board there. And Carm, little opportunity for folks to jump on board here, is it? I believe we've got a pretty cool code here that they can hop on over to your page over at WagerTalk.com, utilize and partner up with you here this weekend.
Yeah, this is good for. It'll be good till Sunday night. You can use the code ALL20, and ALL20 is going to get you $20 off either a 3-day all access, which is normally $69. You can drop it down to $49, or the 7-day all access, which drops that down to, I think it's from $99 to $79, and you're going to get literally every single play for the next 3 or 7 days. NHL, soccer. There's just a ton going on right now with different competitions, different leagues, and of course NHL is in full flight right now. So there's just huge slates of NHL plays each and every day.
All right, good stuff there. He's locked, he's loaded, he's ready to go. Carmine, get the hell out of here, man. Best of luck here. Go save your wife from Ricky Martin or whoever the hell it was that you allowed her to go see last night. Good stuff there, Carm. As always, we still have Andy Lang coming up here in just a second, as well as Double R1L Steve Merril. He'll join us in a few as well. We got plenty of college basketball to go over, so get those questions and games ready. If you guys have them, go ahead, drop any of those questions you have in the chat room. We're going to rattle off as many games as we possibly can up until the top of the hour when that early slate of games goes. Don't forget, if you're joining us here for the first time, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on YouTube Shorts or on our YouTube channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, become part of the Wager Talk TV family. Hit the like button as long as you're hanging out with us here today. We'd certainly appreciate that as well, as we welcome in the one and only, the prop god, Andy Lang, in the house here. And I know, Andy, you've got maybe an NHL prop you're going to take a look at here in just a minute. But I also know there are some UFC fights coming up a little bit later today. And, you know, you weren't crazy about the card last week. Are you a little bit more enthused about the card this week?
Well, it's one of the best MMA days in a long time because we're starting at 1 o'clock Eastern with the PFL versus Bellator, and it goes right into UFC. It's like 13 hours of MMA. So hog heaven. So as soon as I get this done, I'm going out for a walk because I'm probably not leaving the house after this. I'll be living La Vida Loca here watching the fight. No, it's a great day for MMA. That's where my focus is. We've got some lacrosse plays that are up. But yeah, NHL is going really, really well, 30-16 in the last 46 plays. But really the focus is on UFC and PFL. Very bettable cards. 5% play is up. Encourage everyone to go grab that. That's where my profits are going to be today.
All right, so let's roll here with the first fight. And again, if you guys have any questions about any of the fights coming up here today, go ahead, drop them in the chat. We'll go ahead and get them out for you. So Andy, talk to us about one of the fights here, I believe. There it is. Christian Quinones plus 145. Barcelos minus 175. What are you looking at in this fight?
Well, I'm actually looking at a round prop. I like this to go over. You can get plus money at 2.5 rounds, and this is mostly because of Haroni Barcelos. 6 out of his last 7 fights have gone the distance, and this guy is a cagey veteran. Now he's on the final stretch of his career, but he still has skills. And Christian Quinones is kind of the aggressive, move forward, likes to power punch. But he's been a little sloppy, and it cost him last fight. He walked in way too fast against Kong. Kong hits him, knocks him down, jumps on, and gets the submission. So chalk it up to a learning experience from Quinones. Just being overzealous, it got the better of him. Barcelos doesn't have the knockout power that he once did. I don't know if he ever had knockout power, but he's just kind of a points fighter now. He keeps the distance. He does have skills in the clinch, and he can get you to the ground. And I think this is kind of one of those where the veteran just kind of shows his chops here against the younger guy. And I think this goes the distance, but even just 2.5 rounds, you get a really nice price. Quinones is not going to make the same mistake he did last time. That they're going to be able to look at that on film and easily just say, hey, you can't walk in with your hands down that low. You're going to get popped. So I think you see a little bit more patient attack from Quinones because he can't afford to get another knockout. That would be 2 in a row. And Barcelo, 6 out of 7 fights. The one fight that went under, he got knocked out by Umar Nurmagomedov, and I don't think Quinones has that kind of skill. So this all just hinges upon the fighting style and the veteran savvy of Barcelos. I think he strings it out. I think he points fights on the outside if it gets in close. I like Barcelos to kind of neutralize the power of Quinones, look for some takedowns possibly as well, and you get a nice plus money over 2.5 rounds.
That's what we're talking about here, guys. Plus money. It is, and a little bit of UFC action coming up here tonight, actually all day. And, of course, Carmine was just talking about the NHL here, Andy, and ton of games here starting top of the hour. We got one of the early puck drops, but nobody does the prop market like you do in the NHL. So whether it be shots on goal, or how we just pretty much, it seems like a handful of guys you continue to fade who never will see a point in their entire career. And you somehow managed to find these guys and cash consistent tickets on fading dudes not to get a damn point in a game. So do you have one of those today for us?
Yeah, there's a couple that you can look at. It's a little juicy. The books are all over this one. I've been playing Tom Wilson to not have a point, and it's been going well. I laid off of him last game because they were playing Tampa Bay, who gives up a lot of goals these days. And sure enough, Washington scored 5 goals. Wilson had 2 points. So we laid off of it perfectly. Carm did a great job talking about how good Florida is playing. It's minus 175 for Wilson to not have a point, and I still do like it. Just because Florida's, what have they given up, like 6 or 7 goals in the last 4 or 5 games? You know, their defense is great. I know they got the backup goalie, but he doesn't score a whole lot. I know somebody earlier was asking about shots on goal in this Florida game. Not a lot of overs that I like. I think the books have them properly priced, but if you're looking at an under, John Carlson, under 2.5 shots on goal, 4 games in a row that he has gone under this total, and I believe that's 7 out of the last 8. So I know it's not fun to watch a game rooting for an under on shots on goal. That's like blood pressure central. Every time he gets the puck, you're screaming to not shoot it. Pass it. But yeah, there's a play on the board. We've talked about players to not have a point, but Brandon Hagel, to have a point. Yes, he's going to have a point. He has a point in 66% of his games this season. So this is not a short-term success thing. This is a full season success. It's minus 165, and I don't care. I'm laying the juice. He has a point in 11 straight games, and Joe, 16 points in those 11 games. He's not barely getting a point. He's getting multiple points, and he gets one of the best matchups today against the Islanders. For the season, they give up the 25th most goals. They give up the 31st most shots on goal. And in the last 5 games, the Islanders have given up 21 goals. And the other thing that really pushes this over the edge is I mentioned that Tampa defense not great, goaltending has not been great. They are getting in a lot of these shootouts. And the Lightning have scored 20 goals in their last 6 games. So you're seeing this Tampa Bay Lightning team have to score a lot of goals to keep up with the other team. So I like overs for this Tampa Bay Lightning, but Hagel less than minus 200 to have a point against the Islanders? Yeah, sign me up for that one.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, get it done. A little juicy, but doesn't matter. It's still got a cash, and that's all that is important here. All right, we do have some questions in the chat room. And again, guys, if you're just joining us here for the first time, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop any questions you got about today's upcoming slate across the board, whether it be college hoops. Only 3 NBA games here, all starting a little bit later tonight, coming out of the All-Star break here, but plenty of UFC action all day long, not to mention the NHL. So if you have a question, drop those in there. We'll get to as many as we can, and we'll go with Wager Wonk here. Always good to see Mr. Wonk Andy, what do you think about the Moreno-Royval fight here going the distance? Maybe over a 3.5 round bet here. I'd be shocked if this thing doesn't go to the distance here, Andy. What about you?
The only worry as to why, well, there's a couple worries why it wouldn't go the distance. I do like the over 3.5. My worry is the elevation. They're fighting in Mexico, and these Mexican fighters that have been fighting or that have been training in the elevation are going to have a big advantage. In 3 rounds, does it matter? I don't know. But this 5-rounder, yeah, this is a big advantage, Moreno. Royval, he's got okay cardio, but it's not the greatest. And I think this fight's going to be pretty even. The other worry is Royval, a lot of his fights do end inside the distance, but not against competition like Brandon Moreno. So Royval could always land the flash knockout. He had a really nice flash knockout knee against Nicolau. I like the over just because I don't think either one of these guys are gonna want to get knocked out. And sometimes, well, obviously, no one wants to get knocked out. But you see the tentative fights sometimes. And even though these guys are exciting fighters, it's a main event. Moreno's in front of his home crowd. Royval, a little bit of a short notice. I think these guys are going to be just a touch tentative. And if it gets on the ground, these guys are active enough that it's going to be really hard to see a finish inside of 3.5 rounds. My worry is if Royval gets tired late. If the elevation does catch up to him and they're on the ground, I could see Moreno getting a sub, maybe a ground and pound if Royval just kind of gasses out a little bit. If this is anywhere else besides elevation, I would say, yeah, take it to go the distance. But I like playing it safe and just saying over 3.5. These guys are very, very equal. They know each other very, very well. They fought a lot of the same opponents. This is a rematch from years ago where Royval unfortunately hurt his shoulder at the end of round 1, so we didn't get to see the true potential of the fight. But they're equal. They know each other. I like the over 3.5. I wouldn't take full distance just because of the worry about Royval's cardio at the end.
Well, that's not great news if it goes the distance for Moreno either, since his record is not great in decisions here. 3-4-2. Either wins them, he loses them, he splits them. It's just the most strange thing. So for Moreno, you want to get it done inside the distance here, but that remains to be seen if he can get it done here tonight as a pretty sizable favorite. All right, shot on goal. Let's see what we got here. We are looking, Andy. Any alt line shot on goal props? I love the way you're thinking, Jabaka 42. Very nice. How about it, Andy? Any alt line shot on goal props?
I have not dabbled with alt line shots on goal props.
Love it.
Wow, it's pretty interesting. I have dabbled. I dabbled early in the NBA season with alt line assists, and those were great until the books caught on. So I have not done this. I honestly, Joe, I have found so much success with players to not have a point. What do you always say? If it ain't broke,
yeah.
don't fix it. So. Yeah, so here's what I would say, Jabaka, if this is working for you, stick to it. If you're finding a lot of success and this is your gem, stick to it. Claim this as your own. I feel like I've been the one to discover this players to not have a point market, and I will exploit that as well. Really great friend of WagerTalk, Jim Malero, buddy of mine, he adopted sack props in the NFL. That's all he did the last 2 years, and he crushed. Because he just found his niche and he found the exact kind of area where the books were a little bit soft and he took advantage of it. So Jabaka, if you've found your niche, go for it. You don't need to be a master in all areas and all aspects and all props. Just find what works for you and stick with it. So if it's working for you, I applaud it. I'm all for it.
So we got Jabaka is a certain level of degeneracy, my friend, hanging out in the alt market. Just looking to put that up with some other things. I appreciate your degeneracy there, Jabaka. I love the way you're thinking there. A little alt line shot on goal prop parlays. No better way to spend a Saturday afternoon. All right. Andy, before we get you out of here, and big shout out to Sonny here, who's giving you guys some thumbs up there. I love the content Andy is putting out in the channel. Thanks for all the shows. Outstanding stuff across the board. And Andy, locked, loaded, ready to go on what is going to be a huge weekend here. So what do you got ready for folks over on your page at WagerTalk?
Well, I would just say it's a great day of sports, and just be careful. Make sure we're practicing bankroll management. This is one of those days where you literally can love like 20 plays. So just be careful that we're not overextending ourselves on the bankroll. And what I encourage everyone to get is the 5% UFC play. The PFL card starts in about an hour and a half. UFC is right after that. That's where I'm looking to do most of the damage today. So I only need 1 or 2 plays on a day to turn a profit, and that's where I think the most value is, at least for me and my client. So 5% play is up, locked and loaded. Encourage everyone to go grab that. Let's have a great day. Good luck on all your plays, guys.
Outstanding stuff, Andy. All right, go live that Vida Loca there. Enjoy yourself. All right, so there we go. We got Carmine in the books, Andy in the books. We've got Steve R1L Merril coming up here. We got plenty of college basketball coming up here, guys. So if you have a game you are on the fence about, and we do have the opening tip with a couple of games. I believe there's about a half a dozen games coming up at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Indiana, Penn State, Houston, Baylor, obviously. A lot of eyes will be on that one. Missouri and Arkansas. So if you guys have any questions that you want to go over here with these games, we are going to power through this over the next 28 minutes or so. See if we can get to as many as possible as we welcome in R1L, Steve Merril, ready to roll on another absolutely jam-packed college basketball Saturday here. Merril, only 3 games in the association tonight, but it is a lot of back-to-backs last night, obviously. A lot of great fights last night. Who'd have thunk it? We turn in and see Royal Rumbles in the Heat game there last night with New Orleans. A lot of good times. But it's a huge card, and these games coming up at noon, and I know you've got a video coming out here with one of the ones that I think a lot of people are waiting for, and that is Houston and Baylor. I know you've got a breakdown on that one. I know there are people here that are interested in maybe getting a bet in this game. So let's go. Let's start with this one here with Baylor in the new building, Merril, in Waco. Are you buying them to hold home court here in this one?
Yeah, arguably the best game of the weekend. Don't have to wait long. Goes here at noon Eastern in 30 minutes on CBS National TV. This is a battle of 2 top 15 teams, and I did feature this also in my top 25 video, which just went live here on WagerTalk TV. And there's 2 other games in that video, which start at 4 o'clock Eastern. But let's look at this early game. On the surface, Houston is the number 1 team in KenPom. They're the number 1 rated defensive efficiency team in the country, but they're only 16th on offense, and only 16th, still very good. But Baylor is the 4th best offensive team in the country, but only 90th on defense. You look a little deeper, though, at Houston. They have struggled at times shooting the ball, especially on the road in hostile environments. I can't overlook that game a few weeks ago that was in my top 25 video when they went to Kansas back on February the 3rd, 3 Saturdays ago, and shot just 36%, lost by 13 points. Shot only 34.5% also against Central Florida earlier in January at home. And although Baylor's been up and down defensively at times, they're still a pretty good team. And they're just the better offensive team. And let's not forget, these teams played in the Final Four 3 years ago, April of 21. And I know it's a different roster, but it's still the same scheme, same coaching staffs for the most part. And Baylor won that game by 19 points as a 5-point favorite. So I think they're comfortable playing against the style like Houston. I think the better offensive team gets it done here on a strong home court as a dog today. Baylor, a live dog, currently plus 2.5, plus 120 on the money line. I think you probably split it on both of them.
Yeah, that's. I think it's going to be the game of the day early on here, guys. Opportunities to get involved in that one. We'll learn a little something about this Houston and Baylor team here in the Big 12. We also have, if I'm not mistaken, we got another college basketball game that you're going to look at. But I just want to know, how is it going on the William and Mary coaching search there? I know you have been looking, and in fact, Bill Sandoval would not be a Saturday if we did not touch base on Stony Brook, only laying 8.5 at home against your William and Mary squad here. So what are you thinking here? Are you fading your boys here? Is it Stony Brook for you?
So I got a good Stony Brook William and Mary story for you. As you know, I'm a season ticket holder, and I know the economic term sunk cost, and I've already paid for the tickets, but I still feel like if I don't use them, I'm losing that money. And every Saturday home game has been at 2:00 Eastern this year, except for one. They moved it back to 1:00 Eastern, and that was when I had a middle school basketball tournament at noon, and I could have caught the whole game and then didn't have to play until 5. But the middle school game got done right at like 2:00. I check, it was halftime. I'm like, I'm not driving all the way over there to watch it. And then the game lingered on. William Mary trailed the entire game against Stony Brook last month, and then finally took a lead by 2 points late. And then they got called for traveling with like a minute to go and lost the game. It was an ugly, ugly offensive game. So the point of the story is under the total, Joe Raineri. And here's what's best part about the whole story. The reason they moved the game to 1:00 is because they didn't want to conflict with the NFL playoff wild card that started at 4:30 that day. Like anybody cared in Williamsburg about the Houston Texans or the Cleveland Browns. So I missed a home game because of the NFL playoffs and middle school basketball. That's how my life rolls on Saturdays. Under the total, though, that's the moral of the story. 2 awful offensive teams. The problem is William Mary is horrendous defensively, but Stony Brook is bad enough where I think they could slow them down under 139.
Aren't you glad you asked, Bill Sandoval? Because you got yourself
That's what you get.
Stony Brook.
I said I'm not. I told Joe Raineri I'm not handicapping the
Yeah.
CA anymore because I'm involved. It's maybe coaching the tribe next year, but we have to talk
listen,
about it.
you got to be on that sideline next year, and Bill and I will come and sit in your season ticket.
I'll give you my
your
seat.
seats
That's true.
there.
I will have a couple seats open.
Correct.
Since I have to keep
and we'll
buying
be
those
ready
tickets.
for you. We do have a little late night action out west in a game that's going to feature, well, it's Pepperdine, so nobody's going to play defense there. Taking on the Dons, it is a 2-touchdown number, I believe, for San Francisco here, laying 14 here. Pepperdine never met a 3 they didn't like to take here. So what are you looking at with this one here? Dons taking on Pepperdine.
Yeah, I've got 5 best bets for Saturday. This was the one game that just missed the cut. I'm actually using it as my free play of the night on my page. You can go see the full analysis, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. The free plays have done quite well in the shows because keep in mind, I average like 1 to 2 best bets a day. I got 5 on Saturday because it's a huge card. But a lot of the viewers, somebody in the chat said they liked that free play in the college basketball show yesterday on Jacksonville plus the points at home against North Florida. So, the free plays, these under-the-radar games have done well. And I like San Francisco laying the 2 touchdowns here against Pepperdine for a couple reasons. First of all, as you said, Joe, Pepperdine, not a good team. They're 12-17, yet they've surprisingly gone 3-1 straight up against the spread their last 4 games. The last 2 games, they were a favorite against both bad Portland and Pacific squads. I'm not going to read too much into it. Meanwhile, San Francisco faced a much tougher opponent at St. Mary's of California and lost by only 4. They had won, I believe, 6 straight before that loss. So they're in pretty good current form, and I think this is bounce back mode for them at home against a Pepperdine team that is still just 3-10 away from home this year, despite that win at a terrible Pacific team once again earlier in the week. Also, San Francisco won the first game by 6 on the road, despite shooting just 4 for 19 from 3-point range. They still won that game by 6. I think they win by margin here, and it's a bad spot for Pepperdine tonight.
All right, it's every spot's not great for Pepperdine there.
We do have Joe, real quick on this. So one of the brutal things about William Mary is I saw the announcer leaving the other night. I was like, "Where are you going Saturday?" He's like, "Stony Brook." I'm thinking, man, I'm so glad I'm not a play-by-play announcer for William Mary. At least I go to the home games and get home 10 minutes earlier. But they did have a trip to Pepperdine over winter break in late December. I was like, wow, at least if you got to go somewhere, you're going to Malibu, California. And Absolutely. It rained the entire time they were up there. So they didn't even get to enjoy California. So
it's the only reason he didn't quit before the season. All right, so we got a bunch of questions coming in here. We'll start with Titans. What do we got? Titan CT here looking. This is a kind of a game nobody's talking about. It's kind of flying under the radar involving UConn and Nova here, and points out that, yes, it is a bit chalky here, and I don't know why I have given up on Nova trying to figure it out. With all that experience and talent, and they still have been one of the more inconsistent and frustrating teams this season. So what do you do? I mean, UConn came back down to reality a little bit here this past week. Is it simply a UConn or pass spot, or is there enough value for you to look towards Nova in this one?
Yeah, it was a tough spot for UConn. Brian Power had a nice call on that on the college basketball show earlier this week when he used Creighton, and he mentioned, Connecticut was coming off the biggest blowout. I think, what was it? Maybe you mentioned, Joe, it was the biggest blowout ever of a top 5 game. Obviously, Marquette was a phony number 4 ranked team going in that game. I think we all realized that. But UConn did have a little bit of a flat spot, I believe, in that game at Creighton on Tuesday. So I will discount it a bit. It was still a bad loss, so by 19 points as a road favorite. It's interesting. There were only 2 top 25 games that qualified for my video, so I dug a little deeper and I used number 26 UVA against North Carolina because they just dropped out of the top 25. And as I was scanning the board, I was thinking, well, Villanova's probably in the additional votes as well. Maybe I'll talk about that game. They're not even getting additional votes. That's how far they have fallen from the rankings. With that said, though, I do think they're still somewhat of a dangerous opponent. They're playing very good defense this season. That's always been their calling card under Jay Wright. And when he stepped down a year ago, their defense plummeted like 100 points in the efficiency rankings. Connecticut did struggle with them earlier this year, back on January 20th, a month ago. 4-point road favorite. They only won the game by a point. Both teams shot really poor from 3-point range, 30 and 30% each. And the game stayed well under the total. Actually, only by about 8 points. So there might be some sneaky value with the over here. 2 teams shot awful in the last game, and it only stayed under by about 8. So I'll go a little contrarian on this one and take a look at the total. Over 133, and we've actually seen some sharp money push that about a point higher today.
Yeah, it's going to be 8 o'clock, I believe, that one. So looking forward to that game here tonight, because it's kind of now, listen, put up or shut up, Villanova. It is that time. All right, we got a question for Double R here. Iowa State's and solid ATS system say you laid the point. What is the spread in that Iowa State game? Wasn't it monstrous? 17, 18, I believe, Merril, somewhere along those lines? I know it was obnoxious.
Yeah, I wanted to know what that system was. I hadn't checked the chat since I replied back, because I think he said UConn and Iowa State both fit the system he was looking at. And they're both double-digit favorites, so I have a feeling it probably has something to do with like a double-digit favorite, bounce back type situation, because obviously we talked about UConn losing as a road favorite, and Iowa State just lost also. Their loss was a little more explainable, though, as they were at Houston as an 8-point dog. These lines are tricky. It's funny. I don't get involved in this type of price range too often, because I don't think it's a question who's going to win this game. It's going to be Iowa State. West Virginia's gone just 2-6 their last 8. The question becomes, is there a big difference if they win by 16 versus 20? If you're a point spread bettor, there's a huge difference. If you're Iowa State, I don't think there is. And if I look at their recent wins before this, they won 4 straight games before this. Every single win was by 12 or less, and 3 of those 4 wins were by 8 or less. In fact, you got to go way back to the Oklahoma State game. I know you don't want to hear that, but mid-January when they beat them by 22. So I just don't see Iowa State as a team that really blows teams up by more than 18.
Yeah, no, that's a big number to cover here. Also, UCF, Texas Tech, that game coming up here. Tech on the road, coming off a monster, come from behind win there at home, taking on a UCF team. I think they're on a 3 or 4 game losing streak as well. But they don't get blown out, UCF, that's for sure. They always seem to just not make enough plays late in the games to be able to get over it. That Cincinnati game comes to mind. So what do you do here? Do you trust Texas Tech on the road here, Merril, or you think UCF? Certainly seems like the market's moving towards UCF in this one.
Yeah, Joe, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is the betting market definitely like Central Florida? They opened as like a 2-point home dog. Now they're a 1-point favorite. These teams did play. They never played really before until UCF, Houston. They're all new in the Big 12, so we don't have like past meetings recently. But they did play a few weeks ago for the first time, and that was on February 10th. And Texas Tech won that game by 7 as an 8-point home favorite. And Central Florida was only 5 for 24 from 3-point range. So if they shoot anywhere better, they probably do get the win today. And I think that's why the betting market likes them as well. It's a quality team and a revenge spot at a decent home court.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a bit of a sandwich spot. It was a hell of a win against TCU, that's for sure there. All right, we got a couple of more opportunities for you guys to jump on in question-wise, so go ahead. Drop those games you are interested in here, and we'll go ahead and bang a few more of these out here over the next 5 or 6 minutes. And again, 12 o'clock Eastern time tip, it looks like here. We'll have the first wave of these. Wake Forest. There you go. Why is Wake Forest a favorite when they just lost by 8 to Duke? 10-point difference. Wants to know what you think that is all about. I will say this here, though. Before we crown Duke, who have they beaten exactly? They've, if you're considering that Duke is rolling because they beat a severely depleted Miami team, I don't know. I'm not that impressed with Duke yet this year. And Wake Forest, I think, is 14-0 at home, Merril. You stepping in front of that train?
And I'll also tell you who Duke did not beat recently, and that was North Carolina. The only time they've been an underdog, like in the past 12 games or so, right? So they have, like you said, Joe, they haven't really faced a tough schedule. And the ACC is way down this season. I mean, they're just nowhere near where they've been. They're very top-heavy with Duke and North Carolina. Virginia, Wim and Merril, we're talking that team. Let's talk another in-state team. I had Virginia last Saturday at -3. If you told me a 3-point home favorite is going to hold a Wake Forest to 47 points, how much would you have loaded up on that home favorite? And, of course, they only scored 49, and it's because they went 1 for 11 from the free throw line, not the three-point line, 1 for 11 from the free throw line and failed to cover by a point. That was pretty painful. But my point is I'm not big on this Wake Forest team. I faded them last week. I came right back, by the way, and faded Virginia Monday, had a strong best bet on Virginia Tech. So I'm not always on the Cavs either. But Wake did bounce back against Pittsburgh with an impressive blowout win, 91-58 on Tuesday. So maybe that's the buy sign. The betting market's actually risen a bit. I think you can make a case Duke is probably a public dog, yet this line is going a point higher, up to 2.5 today. That earlier matchup this season, both teams shot terrible from three-point range, 28 and 23%. But Duke did have a 19 two-pointers made, but Wake had 21 made down low. So I think there are some reasons to like Wake in this game. The difference in that meeting a couple weeks ago was that Duke had a 25-13 free throw advantage. And obviously home teams normally get the calls more. I think it's going to be a little more balanced today at Wake, and I can understand why there's been some money on Wake Forest. I think this is a little bit of a sharp square divide play.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And again, there's going to be some regression. I mean, they're 23 of 45 from three-point range, Duke, over the last couple of games. That is not going to continue here. And again, 14-0 at home. Wake loves their home court advantage here. We'll see if that continues against Duke. Coming up, we do have another unranked team favored versus a ranked team. Ole Miss laying 3.5 at home, and this has risen because it was 2.5. So there is certainly this could very well be another one of those Joe's versus pro situation here. What are you thinking, Merril? South Carolina on the road. Ole Miss just played them, I believe, in South Carolina. They didn't win, but they got the cover, which I think was about 3.5 in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So something's going to give in this. Total has been crashing, but Ole Miss has been getting the money.
Yeah, these guys are bringing up bad memories for me from last Saturday. I felt like I should have had a 4-0 Saturday, and I went 2-2. I mentioned that Virginia game. The other game I lost last Saturday was South Carolina against LSU. If you recall, they had a 16-point lead in that game and decided to lose outright somehow. And then I went 2-0 in the nighttime card. So what could have very well been a 4-0 day turned into a 2-2 day. I don't feel like I necessarily was on the wrong side of those games. But South Carolina, of course, got blown out by 40 the game before that last week against Auburn. So they're coming in off back-to-back losses here and now traveling. And the market has moved to Ole Miss by a full basket. This has gone from like 2 up to 4.5. So definitely likes Ole Miss here. And yes, it is a revenge spot, like you said, Joe. They played 3 weeks ago. South Carolina won by 3 at home. Both teams shot lights out, 51 and 47%, and it still stayed under by a couple baskets. So I actually like the under in this game. The pace was very slow a few weeks ago, and the total's surprisingly risen from 135.5 up to 130. I do not agree with that move.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one there with Chris Beard and company, who they don't get blown out often. It's usually coming down to the final possession. They're also one of the better three-point shooting teams in the country this year. So they're going to have to be good again today against South Carolina. Washington State laying 5 against Arizona State here. Total 139. I don't know. Is this a letdown for Washington State here, Merril, given the fact that they just went on the road and pretty much solidified their ability to probably win the Pac-12 this year. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it is. I'd lean Arizona State in this game. And something to point out about Arizona State. Arizona, by the way, plays Washington. I don't know if we'll get to that game or not. But keep in mind, Arizona just lost for the second time to Arizona. And the reason they struggle against Arizona State is because they play so slow. And Arizona State does have that ability to frustrate teams. And I think they're definitely live as an underdog in this game tonight.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and do that because let's talk about this this Washington game because quite honestly, what is it, 16 now, 15, 16? Listen, I get bounced back, but I don't think Washington has lost a game by that much. Certainly not in the Pac-12 this year. It seems a little bit of a overreaction here, Merril. I mean, I think Arizona wins, but my goodness, I can't imagine laying this kind of number.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this game because I like it in this situation. What kept it off my card, though, is the reason you're mentioning is because Washington has the tendency to keep games close, but they just had a barn burner in their last game. So I do worry about a little bit of fatigue. And the other reason I like Arizona here is I mentioned how they just lost to Arizona State for the second time this season as a big favorite. And Arizona plays extremely fast, 15th fastest tempo in the country. Arizona State's in the 300s. Washington, though, plays 30th fastest. So you have two teams that are going to run and gun here. And when both teams do that, the better team has the edge. And Arizona's the better team. They play faster, better. And that also makes it easier to win by margin and cover these 2.5 touchdown spreads. So if you're going to lay a big number, we talked about Iowa State plays lower scoring close games. I'm more inclined to lay a big number with a team like Arizona tonight in a focused spot against a Washington team that might be fatigued but just can't help but play fast still, and they just don't do it as well. I think Arizona is the play here. Didn't make my card, but a game I was considering.
Did you see the total in the Bama Kentucky game, which is hilarious?
Yes, yeah.
Like 176, 177. The problem is, well, we never know what Kentucky team is going to show up. But at the same time, Merril, Alabama is not the same team on the road that they are at home. So to expect this, it just feels like a ton of points here, man. At some time, I mean, even a little bit of a regression in shooting, and I don't know that we come anywhere near this this total here. I get it, but God, is that a big number?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, it's still over a pass for me. There's a couple reasons why this dropped. By the way, it opened as high as 179, 179.5 yesterday afternoon on Friday, and quickly came down to like the 175, 173 range. Now it's back up to 75.5, 76. I think there's a little bit of middling going on there. Bama might be a little shorthanded with a guard and a forward out. I did a deep dive in this, by the way, in my top 25 video that just went up on WagerTalk TV, so I recommend the viewers check that out after this show for like a 3 to 4 minute analysis of it. And we got a smoke detector going off. My picks are red hot, Joe Raineri.
Oh, damn. Look at that. It's on. He's on fire. This is look at this. Let's see what we got there, Merril. He is on. Look at him dousing himself here, by the way. Alabama, just for that point there, has scored 307 points in their last 3 games combined. And this is now a road game for the first time in what feels like forever. So, yeah, they are certainly capable, Nate Oates and company, of putting up some points, but I got to see it on the road if I'm going to believe in them. And listen, speaking of fire, we have managed to find a little throwback picture here for Steve Merril and his William and Mary playing days. Outstanding
the detector
stuff.
off. Now the fire, that just cooled everything, man. That's like ice right there.
Yeah, look at that, man. The guy is just on fire. Yeah. Look at that, number 7. No wonder why he's coming back to be the coach.
7 out.
Unbelievable. Yep.
7
and out, getting it going. All right, Merril, make sure here we'll get see if we have one more going on here. Let's double check, see if we got see if there is another one. I do believe one of the let me see here if we've got oh yes. What do you Yes. Kansas taking on Texas, which is also always interesting. But that's at Fog Allen, isn't it? It's in Kansas, which I believe Kansas is starting to take some money in this. It's probably up to 8.5 here. It's tough anybody but at Fog Allen. It's kind of hard to look anywhere but Kansas, unless you think Texas has got a little something waiting for him here tonight in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the WagerTalk live odds screen literally is lighting up right now. It's up to -8 from the opener of 6.5. So the money has come in on Kansas in this game. Extremely strong home court. We saw that against Houston a few weeks ago, exactly 3 weeks ago, when they went outright as a rare home dog. They just won at Oklahoma. We're at Texas Tech before that. So they've alternated wins and losses the last 4 games. You know, this is another one of those games, Joan. I was digging in for some added games to do in my top 25 video. I thought, hey, you know, Texas is probably getting some additional votes, but they're way down. They're just like Villanova this year. And even at 17-9, they're not getting any love in the polls whatsoever. And they have not played this year. And keep in mind, last year, Texas won as a 2-point dog outright by 20 points in the Big 12 tournament. So this should be a focus spot for Kansas. And I think that's probably one of the reasons we've seen the line go higher.
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be good to go here. Merril, the GOAT in CBB, man, college basketball absolutely is. And tell him, see what you got going on at WagerTalk.com here on a loaded weekend.
Yeah, it's been a great season. I mean, since college and pro basketball started in October, nobody's won more units on college and pro sides combined than I have. I'm also #1 in all sports sides for 2024. And that follows up being #1 in 2022 and 2023 combined in all sports. So it's been a nice run for several years. I've been doing this, of course, now for 28 years, but I've been at WagerTalk now for the past few years. So if you haven't locked up that full year all sports, all access, check out the offer I've got this week. And it's an instant $800 discount. It works out to just about $1 a play for the next 365 days a night. If you want a smaller package to sample, I do have a 7-day sampler with an instant 25% discount. Or if you want just Saturday's best bets, a 5-for-1 special. Single games are 25, or get all 5 best bets. They're all late afternoon and night games for just 29. No matter which option you choose, don't miss a powerful Saturday in college basketball, along with a bonus free play. Free plays every day as well. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and you get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. And also check out that top 25 videos. I have 2 late afternoon games still available here on WagerTalk TV.
Yeah, good stuff. There you go. As that, I will never unsee that picture now, Merril.
I've got a jersey. I'm going to wear it next time, so people actually really
you absolutely think
should. That I played. Yeah,
absolutely. It's got we need to hang it up in a little frame behind you there, Merril. Get the hell out of here. All right, guys, that'll do it here. This edition of Last Call on WagerTalk TV. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging with us here. Don't forget. Visit Steve Merril, Carmine, Bianco, Andy Lang. Visit all 3 of these guys. They are locked and loaded across the board in all of the sports betting landscape here today. Every sport got a little something going on here today. Visit them at WagerTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Don't forget, give us that thumbs up if you could. We certainly appreciate the time. You guys hanging with us. Best of luck with all the plays this weekend. We'll be back again, of course, next Saturday for another edition of Last Call. Until then, cash those tickets today, guys. Best of luck. We'll see you again soon.